So it's the end of 1965 and Phil Ochs has released his I Ain't Marching Anymore album, his second album, and he has been in the music business for a couple of years now. So he thought he was ready to perform at the prestigious New York concert hall, Carnegie Hall. Arthur Gorson, his manager, didn't think he could sell out the place, so Phil Ochs and Arthur Gorson dropped the prices of the tickets by very much, so they can only cover the costs, and they did the marketing for the concert themselves, and it worked. Carnegie Hall was sold out, and Phil Ochs was going to give a concert at this great hall, but he was very nervous and he couldn't get his anxiety under control. And what was even more disappointing is that they were going to record the concert at Carnegie Hall so they could release that as a live album. But the recordings weren't that great. The concert didn't go so well because of the nerves and because of the anxiety. You know, just before the show, he could hardly play guitar or sing. The audiences liked him. It wasn't too bad, but the reviews weren't fantastic. So he needed a second chance. And so they went to Boston's Jordan Hall. And that was sold out as well. That was also a pretty big concert hall, and they recorded it as well. But again, Phil Ochs struggled with the anxiety, and the concert didn't go that well again. So it was another failed attempt in some ways, and they hadn't had money enough to try again. So what they did, they went to the studio, and Phil Ochs recorded all of his new songs again, put a lot of vocal overdubs, mixed the audience's applauses from the two nights, fit them in together with the songs, and they created a live-ish album for Phil Ochs to release next as his third album. Because he had written many new songs and he was really improving his guitar playing, his songwriting. He had many great songs, so he was very happy to release this new album, Phil Ochs in Concert, a live-ish album. So we start the album, we put it on, and it starts with 15 seconds of applause, and then he sets in with his first song, I'm Going to Say It Now. With a lot of pace, with a lot of excitement, we hear he has developed his vocal skills as well, and the album starts out. Oh, I am just a student, sir, and I only want to learn. But it's hard to read through the rising smoke of the books that you like to burn. So I'd like to make a promise, and I'd like to make a vow, that when I've got something to say, sir, I'm going to say it now. And this album sounds fantastic. And after the song, we get the song Bracero. And Bracero is about the 1942 diplomatic agreement signed during the World War between the US and Mexico. It was the Bracero program where farm workers from Mexico came to the United States to work. And Phil Ochs wrote in the song Bracero about the hard working conditions and maybe some of the more corrupt ways and hard way of life for these people. And the song is great. The melody is fantastic, like all the songs on this album are. So we've just listened to the first two songs of this live album, and it works great. Then we get an introduction to the third song, a long, funny little speech by Phil Ochs, where he introduces the next song, Ringing of Revolution, which is a song about revolution. And it's a big story song, and it works perfectly well. Ringing of Revolution is one of my favorites on this album. Well, I have to say I love all the songs on this album. Ringing of Revolution is about high-class families living in these big castles, and then lower class and middle class people are starting to rebel and start to demonstrate, and they tear the walls down, and we end up in this big revolution. And this song is really it's a longer song, a really big song, a very cinematic song, as Phil Ochs said, and one of my favorites. It's absolutely amazing. The melody works perfectly well. And then we get another topical song, another soldier song with Is There Anybody Here? Where Phil Ochs is kind of paying respects, I think, to the brave soldiers who are going to war. And it's a really good song. His vocal performance on Is There Anybody Here is magnificent. And yeah, it's such a good song. It needs no introduction, and it's a biggie. And then we get another introduction to the next song, Canons of Christianity. And here he gives a very funny speech about, well, about God, about religion. And he mentions Bob Dylan very, very briefly. And he also did with his introduction to Ringing of Revolution. And it's kind of funny because he was friends with Bob Dylan during 1965-66. And he really looked up to Bob Dylan, and Bob Dylan also kind of looked up to Phil Ochs. Well, Bob Dylan was a huge star at the time. He had big commercial success and did very well, had hits with, like a Rolling Stone. And Bob Dylan's lyrics and songs were magnificent and really new and, great. And Phil Ochs, he was kind of intimidated by Bob Dylan. But Phil Ochs was improving, as I said, during the course of a few years. So Bob Dylan was also kind of worried because Phil Ochs was catching up. Because Phil Ochs was writing absolutely amazing songs, some of which are featured on this album. And so they had a pretty strange friendship because Phil Ochs knew how to write a good song. And there was this paragraph in the There But For Fortune book by Phil Ochs where Bob Dylan was in a limousine, I think, with Phil Ochs, and he showed him this new song he had written. And Phil Ochs didn't like it too much, and he said straight out that he didn't like it. And Bob Dylan was not really used to that because everybody, thought he was some kind of god in that time. It's really true. So Bob Dylan got really angry and threw him out of the limousine. So they had a really bumpy, strange relationship, but they were both such unbelievable songwriters. So Phil Ochs mentions Bob Dylan, as he used to do a lot in concerts, and then he sings Canons of Christianity. And I already said this a few times, but his vocal performance again is unbelievable, better than I Ain't Marching Anymore on that album. It's a song about religion, about Christianity, being about elements that are corrupt and that doesn't work well with society. And you can really tell that Phil Ochs is not a fan. And while you can agree or disagree with him, of course, but the song is really good, really good. And then side A of this beautiful album is over. It's unbelievable how good this album is. And we flip the vinyl around and we get a Phil Ochs hit song. Another big artist at the time was Joan Baez, was a huge folk artist who helped Bob Dylan in getting his fame. And Joan Baez was a big name at the time. And she heard the song by Phil Ochs, There But For Fortune. And she really loved it. And she recorded it, and it was a huge hit in the UK. It featured on number 8 in the charts of the UK, and it was a little minor hit in the US as well. And so Phil Ochs made some money out of that because he was the writer of the song, of course. And that became his most well-known song, I think, There But For Fortune. And I have to say, it's absolutely gorgeous, this song, There But For Fortune. It's one of his best. It's unbelievable. And the lyrics, it's so genuine. There But For Fortune, I'm going to read you a verse. Show me a prison, show me a jail, and show me a prisoner whose face has gone pale. And I'll show you a young man with so many reasons why. and there but for a fortune may go you or I. This song has 4 verses like this, and I think There But For Fortune is about the different kind of circumstances people can live in. You know, you have this prisoner in having a very hard life, but you also have this young man with the whole future and potential in front of him, and he explores these different circumstances, because they both can end up in very different paths. I think that's what the song is about. Well, I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, please let me know. Then we get a very dark song with cops of the world, and it's a very brutal song, and it's about about cops, people like you and me living in a very corrupt society, and people like that obviously exist and have existed. And he writes about very brutal people wanting to hurt other people, want to torture, want to make other people's lives a living hell. And he writes that pretty directly in the song Cops of the World. What makes it a nice song to listen to is the melody. And Phil Ochs' melodies are absolutely amazing. And Cops of the World is a great song, but brutal. So, and Phil Ochs has a song like this on every album. I really like it. I love it, as I do all the songs on this album. And then we get another war song with Santo Domingo. He gives another very funny intro to this song. And it's a very riveting song. It's a very exciting song. The guitar playing by Phil Ochs is really good. And it's so funny because again the melody is good, and it always surprises me or strikes me how he can make the line, "The Marines have landed on the shores of Santo Domingo," a catchy line, with a good melody. It's remarkable if you can do that, but that's how good songwriters are, I guess. And then we come near the end of the album with 3 more songs to go, and then we have, in my first video about Phil Ochs, I said that the song that featured on it, Power and Glory, is my favorite song by Phil Ochs. It's a real big song for Phil Ochs. But my second favorite, and could very well be my favorite as well, is the song Changes. The first time I heard that song was by a recording from Gordon Lightfoot, because Gordon Lightfoot recorded the Changes song on his debut album, Lightfoot. And it's a more catchy song on his album, but Phil Ochs' version of his beautiful poem named Changes is gorgeous. It's a love song, but most of all, it's very poetic. And he always thought Changes could be a hit single, it could have been accepted in the commercial market. I don't know about that, because it's very long and it's kind of a slow song. The melody works great. It's so unbelievable how it is his best lyric of all his songs, I think. And if you combine that with this perfect melody, with this soothing voice, with a nice guitar arrangement, well, there you have it. You have a perfect song. And Changes is definitely one of my favorite Phil Ochs songs, and one of my favorite songs of all time. And it's astounding how good this album is, featuring this beautiful song. So now we've had 3-4 very serious, big songs. So it's really nice that he gave another funny speech to introduce this light-hearted, cool, very acclaimed song of Phil Ochs's, Love Me, I Am a Liberal. It's about liberals at the time. It was 1966, and he experienced some some hypocrisies, you know, with the liberal types at the time, and he writes about them. Very funny, and it's a really good song. The audience really loves it, although that could be the mixing of the album, but it works really well, and it's been one of his better tunes for the audience in live concerts. They always love me, I'm a liberal, and really good song. And then he says goodbye with the last song on the album, When I'm Gone, and he says goodbye with these words: there's no place in this world where I'll belong when I'm gone, and I won't know the right from the wrong when I'm gone, and you won't find me singing on this song when I'm gone, so I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. Also, this song was very loved by Phil Ochs fans, and Phil Ochs in Concert, the album from 1966, is done and released, and it did very well. It even featured in the Billboard charts, the album charts. It wasn't a massive hit, but it did really well. The critics loved Phil Ochs in Concert. The songs were definitely an improvement, and if you watch that video, you'll know that I absolutely loved I Ain't Marching Anymore and gave it an A+, and I even love Phil Ochs in Concert even more. So it's no doubt about it. All the songs on this album I would give an A+, and I give this album an A+, and I love everything about this. This album is one of my favorites of all time. And weirdly enough, it's not my favorite Phil Ochs album. I'm going to talk about that album in another video. But to celebrate this gorgeous CD, I would like to read you the lyrics, Changes. Sit by my side, come as close as the air. Share in a memory of gray, and wander in my words and dream about the pictures that I play of changes. Green leaves of summer turn red in the fall, to brown and to yellow they fade, and then they have to die, trapped within the circle time parade of changes. Scenes of my young years were warm in my mind, visions of shadows that shine, till one day I returned and found they were the victims of the vines of changes. The world spinning madly, it drifts in the dark, swings through a hollow of haze, a race around the stars, a journey through the universe ablaze with changes. Moments of magic will glow in the night, all fears of the forests are gone. But when the morning breaks, they are swept away by golden drops of dawn of changes. Passions will part to a strange melody, as fires will sometimes burn cold, like petals in the wind, were puppets to the silver strings of souls of changes. Your tears will be trembling, now we're somewhere else. One last cup of wine we will pour, and I'll kiss you one more time and leave you on the rolling river shores of changes. Sit by my side, come as close as the air, share in a memory of gray, wander in my words and dream about the pictures that I play of changes.